My dear friends, today I would like to discuss and meditate together with you 3 points of affirmation that Jesus brings in the Gospel of today, which is also connected to the rest of the readings. And the first of that is fidelity and commitment to our life in God. That is the faith in God. In the Gospel, Jesus tells us, "There is no one who performs a mighty deed in my name who can at the same time speak ill of me." So, in other words, a person who is deeply rooted in faith in God cannot contradict himself. He lives through his words and actions and even his thoughts based on God and divine element. So, such people are always rooted with God in deep faith. And sometimes we can examine and see, are we really rooted such like in deep faith with God? Our daily prayers, our participation in the Eucharist, adoration, etc., does it bring a total concentration, or are we often distracted? If we are really rooted in the faith in God, like with total love and dedication, we could just concentrate in Him. Like maybe as we watch a movie or sports, or how do we play video games, or maybe chatting with someone, or even cooking or doing something that hobby that we like, it might bring so total concentration. And even in prayer and in union with God, we need that such kind of total concentration. And one of the obstacles that could cause us in order to concentrate totally on God is jealousy. That we heard in the Gospel, John comes to tell Jesus what happened, and even in the first reading, Moses hears from Joshua that what he felt, and Moses responds to Joshua in this way: "Are you jealous for my sake? Would that all the people of the Lord were prophets. Would that the Lord might bestow His Spirit on them all." I think a deeply rooted person in faith will always think of something good for others, like Moses, like Jesus. They never felt anything that is an obstacle in their life. Rather, they were happy accepting the other person as they are for faith. And I think that's what Jesus tells us again in the Gospel of today: "For whoever is not against us is for us." So if we are deeply rooted and for Jesus and for God, then of course we can also include others in our company. And the second point that I would like to meditate together with you is Jesus promises a sure reward for our generosity. And the Gospel says, "Anyone who gives you a cup of water to drink because you belong to Christ, amen, I say to you, will surely not lose his reward." So when we give, we should give as we are seeing Christ in the other. It's not just giving something to someone, we get a reward. No, we should perceive Christ in other and we should give. And when we perceive Christ in other, when we give the best and we give with joy. But sometimes what happens to us, we want to be generous and we give to others what is rotten, what is spoiled, what is no more useful for me. Such kind of things we might be giving to others, which could bring us, instead of reward, a condemnation. And such kind of attitude may have a negative impact on our lives, as says St. James in the second reading of today: "Behold, the wages you withheld from the workers who harvested your fields are crying aloud, and the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts." Maybe we may not be rude to other people, but our attitude might bring such kind of pain and agony of the poor and the needy in their cries to God, and it could come over us as a condemnation. We should be generous with whatever we have with everyone. And having in abundance is not a sin. Sin is when we have in abundance or in luxury, but we don't share in the right way with other people. As Jesus says in the Gospel of St. Matthew chapter 25 verse 29, For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. The talents, the abilities, and the possibilities are all given by God in order to make better of our lives, to be shared in generosity with other people. So let us try to give the best, seeing Christ in the other, and thus let's continually receive the rewards, the blessings from God at the end, to attain the reward that God prepares for us in the heavens. And the third point that I would like to discuss with you is the reward that ends in punishment. Says the gospel, whoever causes one of these little ones who believes in me to sin, it would be better for him if a great millstone were put around his neck and he were thrown into the sea. A believer should always try to do good to everyone in and around one person. So sometimes we can think that all the false accusations that happens in and around the world might be end up in a danger for those who are accusing, because they are making a false accusation against the believer, against the consecrated. So that could be a cause for a punishment for such people. And when we realize that something is causing us to act negatively or rudely, we should take control immediately. That's why Jesus tells, if your hand or if your foot is causing you a trouble or causing you to sin, cut it away. Or if your eyes, pluck it away. In other words, any parts of your body or something that is affecting and causing you to sin, you should consider that part doesn't exist, and you should try to avoid that temptations that comes on your way. Maybe if you jokingly think of, if some of us may literally cut it off and pluck it off, we may have nothing left to enter into heaven, because all parts of our body might be causing us to sin. So we need to think seriously, am I continually prone to the evil or negative things, and do I need to make a total change in order that I may get the eternal reward that God has prepared for us? If not, what happens? If we continue to live in the sin, our reward is punishment, and that punishment is hell, as Jesus says in the gospel of today. And what is hell? Where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. A place that is not at all peaceful or happiness that it shares, but rather it brings uneasiness, uncertainties, etc. So let us prepare ourselves so that in deep faith, let's commit ourselves in serving God and giving ourselves as deeply rooted in faith in God. Let's be generous with all the graces and blessings that God has showered upon us. And doing so, let us encounter the reward that God has prepared at the end of our life in this world. May God bless each one of us.